When my 26-year-old daughter was 18, she came to me and her dad and told us of an incestuous relationship between her and her brother, who is about 13 months younger. She's the oldest. At the time, first of all, it was devastating, and definitely something that it took me months to report, but I did report it. Incest comes packed with shame, no matter if you had nothing to do with it. Little did I know at that time that I had been on the recipient end of incestuous relationships between many family members when I was a child molesting me. I was still with my husband at the time that our daughter came to us about that, and it took me leaving my still soon-to-be ex-husband after 3 years of separation right now. It took me leaving him, which would have been approximately 6 or 7 years. No, it would have been a handful of years after our daughter came to us. It would take me leaving him before not being under such daily stress that I would start remembering being molested by several uncles and grandmother, mother, etc. So incest was part of my history that I didn't know at the time. There was a great deal of pressure from within and without to sit on the incestuous information that was coming to light. Our son, who's a year younger than that daughter, had gone on to molest his brother 5 years younger than him. So at the time they were 17 and 12. Without trying to put things into my children's minds, I tried the best I could to question all of the other children and find out if they had been inappropriately touched or anything like that. As far as I was able to uncover, they hadn't been, but I also didn't want to implant ideas, and it's just really hard trying to question about such sensitive topics. Now I would feel that I know from leaving my husband, I have found out through attempts of murder all my life and just a bunch of crazy things that I would have never thought, that he is a definite pedophilia, and he has, I believe, molested multiple of our children. We've had 11 children together, 9 are living, 3 are grown, and 6 are not grown. I can't protect my children right now because I can't get the legal system to take my case seriously because I haven't been punched and have black eyes to prove domestic abuse. I am recording this today because I feel that there needs to be a voice to try to encourage others. Don't sit on things like incest. It's devastating when it happens in your family, to yourself or among your children or however it might happen, but it has power when it's silenced. I was going to the Mennonite church back then, and this daughter is now a Mennonite. I believe that she has been having an incestuous relationship with her dad for a long time, and that her coming to me and her dad back when she was 18 was actually more of a ploy, probably to take me over the edge emotionally, which it definitely did. The Mennonites didn't want me to report on the incest, and looking back, I went with even though it was much suppressed, and it's not now, but I went with my intuition, I went with my gut, knowing that I should report it, and it was very hard, and it took me months to report it. But looking back now, on the things that I know, that I only know in more of a revealed to me by divine, which includes my higher self, looking back now, if I hadn't reported it, I would almost be guilty of, keeping quiet on something that needed to be reported. So I did the right thing in reporting, but the Mennonites definitely heavily tried to influence me not to report it. The Mennonites are pedophilia. I don't know about every single one of them, but by and large, their groups are into sexual harvesting of energy harvesting, destiny swapping, and my soon-to-be ex-husband that I've been separated for 3 years is deeply into this has to do with like secret societies, high-ranking Masons. I think it shows itself in all different kinds of churches. It's like this cult within cults with the guise of religious mask. It's, these are not people who are holy, they're the opposite, but they have a front, whether they're Baptist or Mennonite or other and not church-going, they have a front of good and honest and upright. I would feel like the Mennonites take that to an extreme, because between their handmade pies and shoe fly lies, their dress is down to their ankles, yet they're like, it's a sex cult. People sleeping with like the whole crew, and they're harvesting energy from people like myself who are innocent, who come among them and spend years trying to, sort through the mental gymnastics of, really which is going against your intuition. Which now that I'm not a Christian any longer, I know that, the struggle I was feeling, I was never supposed to go against my intuition on any of these things. I was never supposed to submit to things that didn't make sense to me. The fact that they didn't make sense to me was what I was supposed to listen to. But I want to talk about incest and the shame that goes along when you find out that your children, or maybe you uncover that your husband is, maybe you're still living with your husband and your children, and you uncover that something is happening. These are things to not keep quiet, because far more than I could have imagined, my soon-to-be ex-husband is far more evil and has done more evil. He in conjunction with the Mennonites and at least my older 2 children, murdered my son 11 years ago, who was 18 months, and made it look as if it was an accident, and even had me being questioned by detectives because I was the one who found him. I believe that he was buried, and then they actually uncovered him and feasted on his body and siphoned his energy force, however you want to say, his life force energy. There's a lot more evil in this world than I would have realized. Back when I believed in, Jesus and Satan, the kind of stuff that I'm aware of now that has actually happened in my family alone, let alone the magnitude of the level that it is, because it actually goes beyond America into the world, is so astounding. When you discover incest or something of that scale happening in your family, please understand that the people who are involved, especially the adult perpetrators, are in fact not only capable but are guilty of much more than what's coming to light. What you're seeing is just like a sliver of sunlight coming through the Venetian blinds, if you will. What is spilling through the cracks is only a taste of what's really happening. So if you are quiet and don't report on that little bit that's coming to light, please understand that you are helping to prop up something far, far bigger. So there's a lot of stuff that's going to be coming to light, and it's going to impact the whole world. It's going to impact laws. Laws will be changed because of my story. And I'm speaking out, risking my life, but I know my life is protected, because this is what I was put on this earth this time to do, to bring this cult, sex cult, it's huge, to take this down. And I'll take the beeping as either a confirmation, or that seeing it didn't stop for at least a couple minutes, that there are plenty of people in this world that don't want me to say the things I'm saying, but I'm saying them anyway. And if my life wouldn't be divinely protected, which it is, I would still be saying it, because this kind of stuff is worth dying for. To let this kind of thing be, to continue, and to not speak out when I know, even if it seems crazy and even if no one's listening to me currently, I couldn't be okay with that. Because, like the incest, for example, or the killing of my son Ethan 11 years ago, like, that is only a sliver of a forest of oak trees that have been growing for hundreds, if not thousands of years. That is, seriously, it's a splinter. It's a tiny little fragment of what's really happening. And it's continuing to happen until this is taken seriously, and it will be. And divinely orchestrated, divine timing, and this stuff is coming to light. Which is why I was hunted, and this is why people who couldn't get through the dockwork system at the hotel when I had fled and people were after me, and I realized that people were after me, and they were armed and trying to kill me back in February. And there's some crazy videos on my website, on my YouTube channel you could see. But I ended up being arrested, which was bullshit, for, quote, destruction of property, for moving, the sofa in front of the door. I didn't go around ruining anything, but for my life, I tried to protect myself. The cops are crooked. I think I've been dealing with crooked judges. I reported this in multiple ways, and it is coming to light. It's coming to light despite crooked officials. It's coming to light despite the Mennonites, for example, having tons of resources and being very rich and being able to buy people's silence, but they can't buy mine, and they can't kill me. And this is coming to light. I also found it interesting when I went to report. I was originally going to try to report on some things I know. I went to the Cortland police station because that was the right vicinity for me to go to. And there were people there waiting for me to intimidate me, and I was intimidated that day. But one person who was behind the glass window, who shouldn't have been because she didn't priorly work there, is a young lady named Rachel Jackson, and she is my daughter Jaleesa's, my 26-year-old daughter, around the same age. She was her childhood friend. And the thing with Rachel Jackson, which I think she got married, so her last name is different now, but I don't know her married name. The thing with her is that back in near Elizabeth City, her 6 brothers went to jail within the last decade for molesting her for over a decade, and this was public, and the parents went to jail because the parents had known and had been quiet about the incest and allowed it to continue. But here's the thing, is incest is the way you gain entrance to this sex cult. Okay, these people are into pedophilia and anything that has to do with like taking the sexual energy from innocent people. So children are innocent, and then there are adults like myself who are unsuspecting and who are innocent and who have a very strong sacral energy, because we're meant to be leaders. We're meant to we're creative. We're meant to have major purpose and change the way Earth is here for the duration that we're here. And so we have, there was, in other words, I have big energy, and it was being suppressed under all the years that I wore a head covering, and I went to the Mennonite church or Baptist churches, and I tried to submit to a molesting, pedophilia, crazy, psycho husband, etc. This also has to do with like money, somehow money being, it's organized crime. Like these people, like there's money involved, and there's, real money in banks, not just sexual energy, but there's actual like dollars, and don't ask me how it all works. So Rachel was the one behind the glass window when I went to go report on crimes, right? And Rachel isn't any longer a child who is innocently being molested by her brothers, but she chose, I believe it was a choice. She chose to, perhaps she ended up having 2 children, I know. Perhaps she decided she would molest her children. You cannot just be the recipient of incest that you were innocent on the receiving end of. You have to become the molester to like your own children or to other children, or but she chose to use this as entrance to the sex cult. She's part of it. So is Will Wilson. Will Wilson. He is probably a little younger than my daughter. He's more like my son's age. Maybe he's 22 or maybe he's 25. I don't know which of my son's ages he's closest to. And he might be married now, I'm not sure. But his family owned the Full Quiver Farm in Suffolk, Virginia. And he was of the 40 people that, at least, that were after me to kill me in February, the day that I fled to the hotel. He was the only one I recognized. See, I have many enemies that know who I am, but I don't know who they are. But I recognize Will. And I know Will from back when our families used to home church together at his house for years and years and years. So he was friends with my children. And I also know that he had actually had sex with multiple of his younger sisters, which I believe was against their will. But now I know that Will Also, maybe he did those things on purpose. So did another young man, his friend named Eli. Don't remember his name. His family lives in Northern Virginia. These were another homeschooling family with like mine that had 10 or 11 children. And I know from going to one, I would say friend, but I'm using the term very loosely, going to Lynn and Roger Huffington. I went to Lynn Huffington when the Mennonites told me not to report on the incest in my family. She was the only friend, quote unquote, non-Mennonite that I trusted with this horrible, shaming secret of incest. And she didn't really encourage me to report it, but she did tell me of the Wilsons and Eli's family. I can't remember their last name now, but basically between Rachel Jackson, Will Wilson with his sisters, and then this young man Eli actually had sex with one of the goats that his family raises, and probably other people, siblings. Gained entrance to the sex cult is my point. And maybe Scott and Allison Wilson were aware, and they weren't hit with it like me, where it was this awful, shameful thing. Maybe they are part of the sex cult too, I wonder. And all I know is that evil and pedophilia are not this some 0.2% or something in our society. It is major. It's half our society, or a third of our society, unfortunately. And it's very secret. And it's not just Hollywood, it's regular people, and it's your Baptist pastor or your Methodist minister or whatever. A lot of it hides in Christian sex. Sex, that's funny. Not sex, S-E-X, but sex, S-E-C-T-S. So I'm speaking out about this, and I'm trying to raise awareness, and I'm also prophesying of what's going to happen in the future. So when it does, and my video is here for all the world to see, they'll know that, what calls itself New Age spirituality, not in the guise of, I've got to light a candle and I've got to do this or that, but actually just true spirituality, which actually doesn't have to do any of those things, and I actually don't. But anyway, if you want to say the way people used to, speak evil and people who were quote witches, which really, half that was just in name only. What I'm saying is there's a real spirituality and there's a false. There's what calls itself, and then there's the real. But people will know that, this modern day equivalent to witch being burned at the stake is foretelling of this crazy stuff that's happening. And it is coming to light. And there is nothing that anybody with all of their money in the world can do to stop it. Because I'm more powerful, I outrank them, I'm spiritually protected, and this stuff has been dropped into my psyche or my understanding in a divine fashion. There's no way that I should know all of this. I'm pretty smart, I can put two and two together. But the vision I had back, it's on my website too, under the title of I Really Am Joseph. There's 2 videos with that similar title. But I talk about the vision I had just woken. And it was almost like a projector, like a TV screen, just in midair. And I believe that it was happening via real time. The way that it was shown to me was at current energy at the time. But the Mennonites were donning hooded cloak, like old-fashioned apparel, almost like something that you would think of people who are really rich and really 1600s or something, or even more medieval than that or something. It was dark hoods with, I want to say black and red, but this image flashed, and the Bishop Dale Miller said, "Shall we?" And he had this blade, whatever kind of sword or knife it was huge, and he was bringing it down and beheading someone who they had strapped to some kind of surface, some big rock or something. And that was the beginning of me really understanding any of this. And when I fled to the hotel and I almost got run over by someone who was trying to get me, then there were 2 men pacing in the lobby at the hotel, Residence Inn, near Bonnie Road in Virginia Beach. Then people tried to come into my room there, and they couldn't get through because of the metal grating and because of the narrowing. They were trying to come through the ductwork. I don't know if it was 6 or 8 people, because it was over a number of hours, and I was under a lot of stress that day, but I was definitely not fucked in the head, okay? But these people took their own lives. And one man, I could tell it was a man and woman together. I could tell they were black, but just by the tone of their voice. And he cried before he did. He was the last one who took his life. But his girlfriend or wife or whatever she was, sister could have been, like, she was frantically, they were trying to get into my door. They had gone back and forth from the door into the ductwork several times. There were already dead bodies in the ductwork at that point. But, you know, after she killed herself, he cried for many minutes. I didn't talk to him, but I mean, I was in really close proximity to him, and I heard him. And I know that he had regret for what he's done. And what he had done, what they had all done, was sleep with children, at least. And also be part of, like, you know, a sex cult where, you know, they're like swingers. They're sleeping with the whole crowd. And they're harvesting sexual energy to, you know, bring themselves, you know, riches. You know, this isn't about, like, the pleasure of sex, even though I'm sure that's a tiny aspect of it, but this is about harvesting sacral energy from innocence, whether they're children or whether they're adults like myself. And so then I found out that my family's in on this, and I might have been a abducted infant or something. Like, I don't know. I think that maybe my quote cousin Janine is actually my mom and had me around 12, and perhaps I'm my grandfather's child. And this incest cult thing goes just like way back in my family lineage. Or maybe I was abducted and like a stolen child. But however, in a spiritual sense, these people knew what, like, kind of like what my essence is and how valuable my energy is, which would kind of explain how, you know, because I ended up becoming like a sex addict as a youth, and I talk about that some on my channel. And really that's just, you know, when you don't have any loving family, you're trying to find love in all the wrong places and stuff. But now I would know that, like, my old, you know, friends in school and boyfriends and all these people, they were like handlers put in my life. You know, my husband, Tracy Leon Henderson, he was paid probably from my family that I was raised by, put in my life to, you know, keep me from discovering, like, who I am and my purpose, which I have once I finally left him and left Christianity and let all this stuff fall to the wayside. And I believe I have children in the home still that are, you know, being abused by their dad, and it's high time that the law look into this. And I don't know how long or, you know, what it's going to take for this to, but the shit is hitting the fan and the truth is coming to light. Like it or not, I've done the work and I've far exceed all of you motherfuckers. Black and white, it's not about color. It's about being shitty people on the inside. And I'm gold. I'm golden, and I don't need any Christ to be that. I always was that. And I'm celibate, and there's just so much power in my energy, my sacral energy. And I'm speaking my truth, whether it costs me my life or not, but it isn't. So speak up if you find out these things are happening, because it's just a little bit of light coming through the crack in the wall. There's a hole behind the wall. There's a whole society, or half a society, that lives off of this disgusting stuff and are posing as upright human beings when they are the closest thing to a devil that there is in the whole universe. That's my 2 cents. Okay, I just remembered Eli's last name is Alexander, so the Alexander family, they also have like a farm similar to the Wilsons. They live more like in the Richmond area or on the outskirts of Richmond, and they're another homeschooling Christian family that would present a certain way. They don't look as crazy as the Mennonites, but they like to wear dresses and skirts and be, quote, overly feminine and supposedly hold to a bunch of things like propriety and stuff. But on the down low, these people are all about sexual harvesting and perversion. I also have already reported on my cousin Janine's and her current husband Don, their I believe involvement with Don's daughter, who supposedly committed suicide a number of years ago, back when she was a teenager. She would be an adult now by far, so this is probably more than a decade ago. But in Alaska, I believe that they took her life and made it look like a suicide. My sister Jessica and her first husband Charlie are part of this. My sister Julia and her current husband Jay Hudson. So it's Jesse and Charles Moore. Now Jesse is a Smith, and Jessica's second husband, is supposedly guilty of molesting his children. But all of this is like, there's so much more than what meets the eye. So maybe there's an ongoing case, and it looks like Jessie is reporting against her husband for abusing the children sexually, but she's actually part of the sex cult too, and she's probably abusing the children as well. So it goes really deep. I've got cousins that have been building fortunes off of my sexual energy, like, for decades. Apparently I'm very valuable. And I don't think I'm better than anybody, but apparently I'm pretty high ranking spiritually. And the fact that I was completely unaware of this allowed many people to build wealth and fortune off of me. So my cousins, Melanie and Carlos Noriega, she's white, he's Hispanic. My cousin, her brother, Joey Moriarty, and his wife, I don't remember her name right this second. My uncle Jack Moriarty. It's funny because, I was married at the Mormon church in the Mount Pleasant area in Chesapeake, married to Tracy, and the bishop there, I believe, put a curse on me that day. It was not your typical, until death do you part. It was really something else that day. And anyway, so I have a Mormon background. I joined the Mormons when I was 14. And like I said, this supersedes different boundaries of sex, like church sex and cults and what we think of as, whether we think of secret society or whatever. This is high-ranking secret society, but the lines get blurred, and it's really all the same thing under the different names. And so the Mormon bishop and the Mormons were certainly part of it. I had a lot of Mormon friends, like my best friend set me up, I think, to meet my spouse. So I've been just set up and handled for a long time. So my cousins are in on this. It is just really extensive, and it's connected to murder. My nephew, which is Jesse's grown son, he lived with me and my mom, my quote mom, in Virginia Beach before my arrest, and he tried to kill me. Him and my mom were having sex, for sure. The first time I doubted, the second time there was no doubting. Also, Spirit just kept showing me things, but I believe he killed someone in St. Mary's, Georgia. I heard muffled conversations where he just had a lot of anxiety and was referring to never going back there and didn't want any trouble. And I've reported all this. I have reported all this to multiple, not just the police, because I don't trust the police. And I don't know if the CIA or these other agencies are full of shit too. Probably on a lot of levels they are. But despite that, this stuff is coming to light. The night that the people had killed themselves in the ductwork, through the middle of the night, there were two people that I actually thought for a while were good cops or good, detectives or whatever, and that they were going to come and check on me, and I was safe. I actually thought I was safe at that point. And then they went on to try to attempt to kill me by gassing through the toilet that they drained all the water out of. But I have a lot of gifts, and I could hear what I shouldn't have been able to hear. And I heard the woman ask if to the man, do you think it's taking effect yet? And then I knew it was a gas. And then I took a small wrought iron and marble table and put it upside down on the toilet, and they weren't able to kill me with the gas. And it was literally 5 minutes later that the police came in and arrested me. I wonder how they got tipped off. So interesting, huh? But this is very far extending, and the the Mennonite bake shops and even the Mennonite schools. My daughter Jaleesa is currently working kind of almost like volunteer work as a teacher in one of the Mennonite schools in Honduras for 3 years now. But the Mennonite schools are really tiny. Maybe they might have 10 children or 12 children. But the Mennonite stuff, whether it's a storefront, and there's lots of storefronts all up and down, the East Coast, Pennsylvania, Virginia, major. Those are only guises. Those are only covers. These people are very rich, but they're not making their money selling pies. Okay, this has to do with sexual harvesting. And so I don't know what they're doing. Maybe they're molesting the kids that go to the schools that have maybe they have a parent from out in town and they're poor, in a different country and stuff. I don't really know exactly, but all I know is Spirit has shown me that the schools and the storefronts where they sell baked goods are only fronts for something much more lucrative and sinister. So that's why I say, homemade pies and shoe-fly lies, because they're just walking fronts, they're just opposite of what you think they are. And it's funny because when I was a Christian, the Bible talks about not being respecter of persons, but then when you respect someone, whether they're wearing a suit and tie and they're a judge or a lawyer, or whether they're a seemingly fanatical Christian with how many dresses down to their ankles, when you give respect without it being based on actual character, you are a respecter of persons, and that's why I'm free to wear whatever the fuck I want. If my cleavage is showing, it doesn't mean I'm anything less. I'm celibate, like, for crying out loud. You know, piercings or, you know, strappy dresses don't make or break the character of a person. Neither does floor length dresses or suit and ties or any of these things, like, you know, being clean cut, you know, the things that the Mennonites would, like, pride themselves on. Like, these people are having sex with their whole church group and murdering people in the community. There are funeral homes in on this, many. There are empty graves. If somebody would check the grave for my son Ethan in Severn, North Carolina, you will find he's not there, and you will find him in the swamp, and you will find his dad's and other people's semen inside of his body, even though it's been 11 years. These are the things that are true, and these are the things that are coming to light. I also just want to say, I also have reported on this, but Brandon Vaughn, who lives near the Mennonite church in Severn, North Carolina, I met him going to a karaoke place out there. I believe he was sent in as a handler, paid to try to seduce me. I believe that perhaps he even took some, like, illegal footage of me. For sure Tracy has through the years. I stopped going there after a while and started going to some Newport News places, and I met Alito Melton, who's a DJ, and a lot of people. I was going to some places in Portsmouth as well. I met Big B, Bernard, he's a DJ. The hostility and things that I felt among these groups from mostly the women who happen to be black, but I perceived it more of a racial tension. But now I know that they are swingers. These people that were, like, these are somehow, they're different than the Mennonites. They don't have a guise of Christianity, but they are pedophiles, and they are, like, it's a sex cult. I don't believe that Alito Melton is aware of this, and I believe that his, quote, wife, he would say wife, I would say girlfriend, sad mistake of a girlfriend, and poor mother, poor children for her to be a mother of anybody, but she's part of this. I believe that she's actually married as the legitimate wife to Tracy Leon Henderson, my husband, and that my marriage to him is really, like, not real, even though it's 28 years long. I know these things sound crazy, but, like, these are the things that Spirit has revealed to me. Perhaps I'm off on some small measure, but I'm not off completely. So Greg Asbury and all these people that were like karaoke friends, like Greg for sure is a pedophile. These people were, like, out to kill me, out for blood, okay? These people, and people that I met also in Virginia Beach when I stopped going to Newport News and I was staying closer to home. I was living with my mom still in Virginia Beach. You know, mom's a dark witch. Like, it's crazy. Like, all this stuff is really, really crazy and deep, fully extended in my family. And here's little innocent me, you know, surpassing them all. But in Virginia Beach, like, there was this guy named Brian, I don't know his last name. I thought these people were my friends, or a lady named Melissa. They were hanging out at Keegan's Irish pub. A lot of people who work there, actually. I was drugged there at least twice. I was drugged where Alito Melton was working, and I would go Victory Bistro in Portsmouth. I was drugged there once. I believed that somehow my drink was just made too strong, but I now know that I was actually drugged. And I believe the person who wanted my address to pay for my Uber ride home, which seemed so caring, she was a stranger who had sat beside me. And guess what? She had full access to my drink when I had used the bathroom and trusted leaving it with a lady and her boyfriend or husband. I just did not think these people would harm me. We're here to sing karaoke and enjoy music, and, you know, I don't know, I have been too trusting of a person because my heart is pure. I don't tend to see people's hearts as being pure until proven otherwise, which now I know that that's just not reality. So I believe Alito Melton is like me. He is, if you want to say, a starseed or an earth angel. He has a lot of you know, sacral energy. He has been living a fast lane life, which I gave up after, you know, my teen years, sleeping around, even though he's, quote, married, having more of an open relationship where he can sleep with who he wants to. But see, what he doesn't realize, I don't believe he realizes, is that they're actually, you know, he thinks that's cool, but actually that's destroying him. And he's like me, and Kix was sent in the way Tracy was sent in to handle me. She was sent in to win over his heart with her fake self and trap him from discovering who he really is. So Alito, I hope you listen to this and hope you find out, because whether or not me and you ever are together or in a relationship is really not my be all end all. I do believe that's what's destined to happen, but if it doesn't, that's okay. What I want for you is for you to come out of this intoxicated, spell that you're under. And it is very much tied to sex and sacral energy. So as long as you think you can just, get a quickie here and there and enjoy this beautiful woman after another, you don't realize that these people are, your spiritual enemies, and they are after your downfall, and they're living off of you. They're feeding off of you. So any money you have in the bank, guess what? I took 20 plus years off of all like TV and radio. I didn't know you were a basketball star. I actually thought by the first time I met you that you were poor, just because of the way you were dressed on that Saturday at Crazy Eights. And no offense, because you other times have looked much more pulled together, but that day you were wearing, I don't know, you were wearing shorts and stuff, but you just looked like, and yeah, we were in more of a poor part of the city, and maybe I just judged you wrong, but I didn't think anything of you like money-wise. I actually thought the opposite. I actually thought you were poor, and that didn't matter because I was drawn to you on a spiritual level. So that was a new thing for me. Like the drawing had happened with Brandon Vaughn, but it was probably 1/100th of what it was with you. So that was kind of the beginning of like my whole change of like what I believe spiritually, which because I've written poems and all of that, but I'm not stuck on you. I want you to come out of this, whether or not we are ever together. That's really besides the point. And what I also want is for everyone in the whole fucking world who's being used the way I have been, whether it's from empathy or whether it's just as an adult, for people to get a clue about how powerful their essence and their sacral energy is, which is your creative essence. It's like everything that has to do with like what you can actually produce on your own, what you can invent. Like if you're Mozart, it's the music that blind Mozart was able to write. So like being celibate or being in a monogamous relationship with someone who actually like is your equal, who is your spiritual equal, who loves you, who you really love, and it's not just based on like the pleasure of sex, and certainly not open sexuality where you're just like a free for all whatever. Like any of that is going to totally destroy like who you really are. And I only want for everyone who is pure of heart, like myself, to come out of the bondage of being used by people. And if there's a way for the people who are users to be set free from that and to gain pure hearts and to live from a right heart space, which isn't from trusting in Jesus or something, then I would want that for them. But these people who are pedophiles and stuff, like these people who are murderers, they need to go to jail or they need to die. They need to go ahead and take their own lives. I used to be against suicide, and I'm against mental manipulation, trying to get someone else to take their life. That's what's going on with you, Alito, is Kix and all these people are casting literal spells over you. They are dark witches and warlocks, and they are trapping you mentally. And this was done to me the whole marriage, and I didn't realize it. So I guess that's more for Alito, and I know that y'all motherfuckers know who we are in the spiritual realm, and that's the thing, is Alito doesn't yet see, but it's okay. So when this stuff hits like the mass media and I'm in court and I become a star over the crazy things that have been done by my soon-to-be ex-husband and the Mennonites and all this stuff, then you'll know that I wasn't out for anybody's money. I'm not a gold digger, and I never have been, and I never will be. I am a sincere, pure heart, purer than most of you ever can even fathom. And that's why you steal. You steal from us that are pure of heart. I know that Alito, I know the first time I met him that Saturday at Crazy Eights, I knew he was a pure heart. I did not understand spirituality the way that I do now. I did not know I was a divine feminine. I did not believe in those kind of things. I really was still very, like, closed off to New Age. Anything that seemed New Age spirituality to me was like a red flag, even though I was in the process of deconverting from Christianity naturally from all that's been done to me, and just as I realized that it was the Bible that kept me stuck. I feel like I'm rambling a little bit now, but these things need to be said. And Pooh is definitely like bad. Kix is bad. I can't remember his name, but the one who does the breakdancing, and you said he won awards. I can't remember his name. He pretended to be interested in me for a quick minute. Him and David, these are bad guys. These are paid bad guys. They're handlers to come in and deceive you. So if you're going to your friends, even male friends, and you're looking for advice, they're going to give you bad advice that you stay in a manipulation situation, and they keep sucking and taking from you in very undercover ways that you can't quite put your finger on. So I do know that I spoke to you about working every day and how nobody can just keep working every day and not have a day off, and you were having like one day off. This was over a year ago. You're having like one day off in maybe like 2 weeks, and I'm like, that's just doesn't makes sense. And then I was so hopeful when you stopped doing the Crazy Eights on Saturday, which disappointed some people, but I knew that it was more important for you, and I was glad to see that actual manifestation of a real, tangible, difference you making for your benefit instead of other people. Do you see how other people were just like using you for them to make a little bit of money, for you to spend your Saturdays doing that for this like 20 people? Like, you're being used. Wake up. I love you. It doesn't matter if I never have a relationship with you. It doesn't matter if I never see you again. Like, I would love to, but that is not what's important. What's important is that all the earth angels, or whatever you want to call us, that are pure of heart, wake the fuck up, get a clue, find out what's happening. Let me just tell you, when I left my husband Tracy 3 years ago, I still wasn't sure it was domestic abuse. I still wasn't sure because I hadn't been punched. I had dealt with a lot of sexual violence, but there was still this doubt. If my reality is what it is, and I wasn't sure I was being abused, and here I am married to a murderer, a pedophile, willing to kill me, okay? Please wake up, people. Evil is much more than you thought it could be. And you minions are going down.